the better feeling I had and the sympathy I had for the men who were fighting that war. The biggest single influence on me was the photography of Partajare.
Mario.
The camera is close to the ground. It tends to be behind the protagonist. In other words, it tends to be where it would be in reality. Having been a documentary filmmaker, I try and put it in a safe place where it would be if it was live ammunition. What? Go on.
The Vietnam film is impossible to understand unless you have all this other background about the World War II combat film and the post-war celebration of the Second World War on screen. That Hollywood, in a way, feels complicit about what it has told Americans about war throughout the 40s, 50s, and 1960s. So when Hollywood comes to make the Vietnam cycle, they have to say, well, forget everything we told you in those previous 30 years of war films. War is really something that is horrible and deadly, and it can have no moral meaning.
Mavis.
Go ahead.
I wrote Platoon in 1976, before the Apocalypse Now and Deer Hunter came out. Those films, I view them as mythic movies, wonderfully made, crafted. Sergio Leone kind of epics, for me, they don't show the war that I knew. There's a fundamental realism about them. Apocalypse was more Joseph Conrad. It had nothing to do with the war that most of us as infantrymen knew. We were in highly defined units where we were dealing with daily attrition and survival. That movie exists for me as a mythic view of Vietnam.
Come on, baby, take a chance. Come on, baby, take a chance with us.
My film is not a movie. My film is not about Vietnam. It is Vietnam. The way we made it was very much like the way the Americans were in Vietnam. We were in the jungle, there were too many of us, and little by little we went insane.
We train young men to drop fire on people, but their commanders won't allow them to write fuck.
When Francis Ford Coppola stands up at the Cannes Film Festival with his hands outstretched and says, "I am Vietnam," I think that is a bit like Stalin saying, "I want to be the home of the Second World War." I think Jim Karabatsos, who was there, wrote a very honest, a very direct version of the Vietnam experience.
Okay, let's get ready. Let's take this squad. Teddy Ford, May 17th. How long have you been on this hill, soldier? What? Hey, brother, how many times you been up and down this hill? Here. My job. Hey, word down at division is you guys can't take this hill. What do you have to say about that? In fact, Senator Kennedy says you guys don't have a chance at all.
In Vietnam, something, perhaps the fear of death, we African Americans in particular, and young white guys especially, who were more hip, who were not necessarily lifers, were able to relate to one another and develop a sense of love that is so remarkable that if I were to say anything was lost for me to this day that I grieve, it was that.
People say I'm the life of the party 'cause I
Beginning in the Second World War, and certainly throughout the 50s and on into the Vietnam cycle, one thing that the combat film represents is the American dream of equality, justice, and no class distinctions. The contradiction that we see in Hollywood films is the contradiction of the combat experience itself, which is an experience that is at once horrifying and glorious.
Tommy, get rid of your sight. You and Monk go out through the bomb bay. I know where I'm going. I'll use the escape. I know what you're on. I'll have to drag the water to the ocean to get this. Open the escape hatch. I'll throw it out. Right.
During the Second World War, our memory of it and Hollywood's presentation of it is going to emphasize those other qualities.
Irish, you on, get out!
Like at the end of Bataan, when the machine gun sprays the enemy, and we know the character is dying, but his death is glorious. And more importantly than the glory is the moral meaning of that. We know that the sacrifice has a payoff. What's so terrifying about the Vietnam experience on film is that we see the death of these characters who we care about, and we know it has no moral payoff.
I would like to see Spike Lee or a black filmmaker make a film about Vietnam. And until that is done, I think there's going to be a great void in the Vietnam genre.
Dubla sărbătoare.